My wife cheated on me with an Uber driver. She called me safe, while destroying our marriage. I didn't lose my marriage in a fight. I found its corpse by accident. I'm Ethan, 35. My wife is Sophie, 33. We've been married 7 years, no kids, golden doodle named Noodle who thinks the vacuum is a villain. On paper we were that Pinterest couple. Shared grocery lists, Sunday hikes, matching mugs that said good morning, trouble. Our friends called us solid, my parents, Donna and Rick, called us steady, and Sophie's family, well, they called us lucky, which from her mom Val, always sounded like a critique wearing perfume. Here's the twist I can't stop replaying. I ordered the Uber that introduced my wife to the man she cheated with. I was swamped at work, she'd had a late meeting and I texted, "Babe, I'll send you a car, stay safe." The app pinged back a smiling profile named Tyler. 5 stars. Chill playlists. I even tipped ahead because he messaged that traffic was rough. The car icon crawled across the map, picked up Sophie and, without me knowing, dropped off my peace of mind. The first hairline cracks were small enough to explain away. Sophie changed her passcode because of client privacy, switched from her usual warm perfume to something sharper, started carrying cash for valet, and put her phone face down like it got shy. Dinners moved later. Networking. Client mixers. It's PR, babe. Smiles are part of my job. She'd come home glowing and distant, like she was still in a room I couldn't see. My mom raised one eyebrow, her version of a storm warning. People don't hide routine, honey. My dad just said, if you feel a leak, find the pipe. Val, on the other hand, sent Sophie winky texts about keeping options open in your 30s, which she called empowerment and I called a rehearsal. I tried to be reasonable. I bought the good espresso, booked us a weekend cabin, suggested we do those corny question cards at dinner. Sophie smiled, kissed my cheek and said, "You're sweet, but I'm exhausted, can we just watch something?" We'd sit on the couch shoulder to shoulder and still I felt alone. Then a tiny, stupid thing became a siren. Sophie borrowed my car for errands, and that night I checked the dashcam. I installed it after a fender bender. I expected parking bumps and red lights. What I saw instead, the passenger door opening, Tyler sliding in beside her, not driving but talking, low, familiar. Their conversation started about playlists, drifted to favorite coffee shops, and ended with a silence that felt charged even through a screen. Nothing explicit. Just the kind of quiet that comes right before a line gets crossed. I told myself it was weird, not wrong. I told myself lots of drivers become friends with regulars. I told myself the man I tipped wasn't the kind of man who would, you know. And yet, as the footage ended, Sophie turned the camera with her elbow by accident. She was smiling the way she used to smile at me. That was the first time the house felt colder than the weather. The next morning, Sophie was humming in the kitchen, making her usual almond milk latte, hair wrapped in that messy bun she knows I love. She kissed me like everything was fine, like the dashcam hadn't just tattooed an image into my brain I couldn't unsee. I tried to match her calm, but inside, I felt like I was standing in our kitchen with an invisible fire between us. "Hey," I asked casually, "who's Tyler?" She froze, not a blink, not a twitch, just still. Then came the kind of laugh people use when they're buying time. "What? Tyler who?" "The Uber guy," I said. "You seem to get him a lot." "Just curious." Her eyes softened into mock concern. "Ethan, you've been working too much. You're starting to sound paranoid. He's just a driver who talks too much." She reached out and touched my cheek. "You've gotta relax." I wanted to believe her, but her voice was too sweet, too polished, like she'd rehearsed this tone before. 2 nights later, she said she had another client dinner. I watched her leave, tight dress, red lipstick, perfume so strong it lingered after the door shut. I poured a drink I didn't want and sat staring at my phone. Around 8:15 I opened the Uber app and saw that her ride had started. Curiosity, or maybe desperation, made me tap the trip details. The driver's name popped up, Tyler. The map showed them headed nowhere near the restaurant she mentioned. Instead, they were heading toward a residential block in Fremont. I screenshotted the map, every turn. She texted me an hour later, "Dinner's wrapping up. Be home soon. Love you." At 10:42 she walked in glowing. Not guilty glowing. Bliss glowing. She dropped her heels by the door, poured herself a glass of wine, and started talking about a client named Jenna, who might sign a new campaign. Her cheeks were flushed. Her hair was tousled like wind or hands had been in it. She sat next to me on the couch, leaned in and whispered, "Missed you." I smelled smoke and citrus on her neck. Her fingers trailed my arm, gentle, almost apologetic. I didn't respond. My heart was a hammer in my chest. Later that night, when she fell asleep, I picked up her phone from the nightstand. She had a new folder labeled Work Docs. Inside, screenshots of ride receipts. One note app entry caught my eye. Thai, Thursday, followed by a heart. The next morning I went to check the dashcam again, but the file was missing. Deleted. She'd learned her lesson from last time. That's when I stopped being in denial. I stopped thinking this was some misunderstanding. That night, I created a new folder on my laptop and named it Receipts. Because something inside me whispered, this story wasn't done breaking. By the time Friday rolled around, I wasn't even pretending to sleep. Sophie told me she had a late PR mixer. Same story, same perfume. I watched her pull on a cream coat and fix her lipstick in the mirror. She caught my reflection and smiled, but it was brittle. Don't wait up, okay? I might crash at Jenna's if it runs late. I smiled back, the kind of calm smile people give before pulling a pin. Of course. Have fun. 10 minutes after she left, I opened her tablet. Our old shared iPad she'd forgotten was still synced to her phone. Notifications started appearing one by one like dominoes. Ride confirmed, Tyler, black Toyota Camry. My stomach twisted. I watched the little gray dot drift across the map again, right toward that same residential street in Fremont. I drove there myself this time. I parked 2 blocks down, engine off, hands gripping the wheel. Her silhouette stepped out of the car, laughing, hair falling forward as Tyler leaned toward her, too close. He handed her something. Coffee? No wine. I watched her touch his arm like she'd done it before. I didn't confront her there. I took a photo instead. Cool. Clean. Evidence. When she got home later that night, she was glowing again. I was sitting at the kitchen island, the lights low, her photo open on my phone. Fun night? I asked. Yeah, she said easily, dropping her purse. Jenna might land that client I told you about. Huge deal. Right? I said, turning the screen toward her. And I guess Tyler the Uber driver is your coworker now? For a second she froze. Then came that laugh again, high too bright. Oh my God, Ethan. Seriously? You followed me? Do you hear yourself? I didn't need to, I said softly. You left a trail a mile wide. The anger came first. You're controlling. Do you want me to report you for stalking your own wife? Then came tears. Okay, fine. I was having coffee with him, but it's not what you think. I stayed quiet. That's when she started spiraling fast. He's been helping me through a hard time. You're distant, Ethan. You don't even look at me anymore. You mean since you started sneaking around? I said. That's when she broke, fell to her knees on the tile, tears and mascara streaking down her cheeks. Please, it was nothing. A few rides turned into talking, talking turned into feelings. I swear we didn't, she choked on her own lie before finishing. Okay, maybe once. But it didn't mean anything. I stared down at her, shaking, because I realized this wasn't the woman I married. This was a stranger who'd learned my habits, my patience, and how to weaponize them. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. You lied, Sophie. You lied to my face, to my family, to yourself. Her eyes went wild, the switch flipping again. You think you're perfect, don't you? Always so calm, so moral. Maybe I just needed someone who made me feel alive. And just like that, there it was. The truth, wearing her perfume. That night I slept on the couch. She cried in the bedroom until her voice went hoarse. And for the first time in our marriage, I didn't go check on her. Because something in me had finally gone quiet. I woke up to the sound of dishes clinking softly. Sophie was in the kitchen wearing one of my hoodies, hair pulled back, pretending normalcy could fix everything. The smell of pancakes filled the air like an apology I hadn't asked for. She turned when she heard me and forced a small smile. I made breakfast. Thought we could talk. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Talk or rewrite? Her eyes watered immediately. Ethan, please. Last night was honest, I interrupted. Finally. That cracked her composure again. You're cruel, she whispered. You're not even giving me a chance to explain. You had a year to explain, I said. Every time I asked, you chose another lie. She sank into the chair across from me. It started as nothing. It was just easy to talk to. You're always calm, measured. Sometimes it felt like I was married to a therapist, not a husband. That one hit harder than I expected. So your solution was to find excitement in the backseat of an Uber? She flinched, then dropped her voice to a pleading whisper. I didn't mean for it to happen. I felt invisible. You stopped noticing me. I noticed you, I said quietly. You just stopped being you. She started crying again, then switched tactics. Anger, guilt, desperation all swirling in the same breath. You think you're so much better, don't you? Maybe if you weren't always working, if you actually tried to make me feel wanted, Tyler wouldn't have existed. That was the moment I stopped trying to reason with her. I'd read enough manipulation threads on Reddit to know what gaslighting feels like once it's wearing your wife's voice. I picked up my phone and showed her the folder I'd made: receipts, dashcam photo, ride history, messages, proof. Her tears dried instantly. You were spying on me? I was confirming what you already admitted. She stood up, shaking. So what now? You gonna tell your parents? What? You want to humiliate me? I looked her dead in the eye. No. I want the truth to stop being optional in this house. That's when she broke again, knees on the floor, hands clutching at my jeans, sobbing like it was a performance meant to win a standing ovation. Please, Ethan. I'll end it. I'll block him. I'll go to therapy. I'll do anything. I gently pried her hands away. Then start by packing a bag. You can stay with your mom while we figure out what's left to fix. She froze, eyes wide. You're kicking me out? I'm asking for space, I said. Because right now, I can't even breathe in the same air as this lie. She stood slowly, mascara streaked like war paint. You'll regret this, she whispered. No one will ever love you like I do. I almost laughed, but I didn't. You're right, I said. And thank God for that. She slammed the door 10 minutes later. The silence that followed was heavier than her absence. That night my mom called. I heard shouting, she said quietly. You okay? Not really, I admitted. Her reply was simple, solid, and sharp. Good. Okay, is how you missed the lies. And that was the moment I realized I'd been asleep in my own marriage for years. The weekend dragged like wet sand. Sophie texted me a dozen times. Long apologies, short accusations, photos of her crying in her mother's kitchen. Her messages swung like a pendulum. I'm sorry, please forgive me, followed by, you were never there for me anyway. I didn't answer. I just scrolled numb. By Monday I thought the worst was over, until I got an email. The subject line read, something you should know, from one husband to another. Inside was a message from a man named Eric. He said his girlfriend Rachel worked with Tyler, the Uber driver, and that he'd just found out Tyler was sleeping with multiple passengers. One of them might be your wife, Eric wrote. Attached were screenshots, texts between Tyler and someone saved as Sophie C. Kissmark. The messages made my stomach twist. They weren't subtle. Tyler, same time tomorrow? The Marriott has better sheets. Sophie, only if you bring that music again, winking face. There it was. My wife was not just having an affair. She was scheduling it. I forwarded the email to myself, saved the attachments and added them to the receipts folder. That night, Sophie showed up at the house, mascara streaked, hair undone. We need to talk, she said, voice trembling. I know, I replied. I read the texts. Her jaw clenched. What texts? I turned my laptop around. The ones Tyler sent to your little heart emoji contact name. She went pale. He promised me he deleted those. That sentence, that exact phrasing, burned itself into my brain. Not that's not true, not they're fake, but he promised. You were planning this, I said, my voice breaking for the first time. You told me you were lonely while you were making hotel reservations. She sat down at the table, shaking, eyes wide. It wasn't supposed to go this far. He said he loved me. He said you'd never fight for me. I laughed bitterly. And you believe the guy who charges by the mile? That made her snap. Don't mock me. You're so calm, Ethan. So detached. He made me feel seen. I slammed my hand on the table. See? You're married. You had every chance to tell me what you needed. For a long time she didn't speak. Then quietly, I didn't think you'd notice if I left. That one nearly broke me. When she tried to reach for me again, I stepped back. You already left, Sophie. You just forgot to pack. She fell apart then, knees, tears, apologies, promises to fix it. But I'd seen this show before. I didn't clap. That night, I slept in the guest room. Before I turned out the light, I moved my laptop, passport, and bank papers into a locked drawer. Because something told me this wasn't just about love anymore. It was about damage control. By Wednesday, the story wasn't just mine anymore. My mom found out first, because Sophie, in a last-ditch effort to save face, called her. When I got to my parents' house that evening, my mom was waiting on the porch, arms crossed, lips pressed tight. She told me she made a mistake, she said flatly. Then she started crying about how lonely she was while living in a house full of love. I told her loneliness isn't an excuse, it's a warning sign. You gave her every chance, Ethan. Inside, my dad was nursing his coffee like a verdict. You going to let her stay? He asked. No, I said. He nodded once. Good. Let the apology cost her something. 2 hours later, Sophie's mom, Carol, called me. That conversation was different. She launched straight in. Ethan, I'm begging you, don't throw away your marriage over one mistake. You know how emotional Sophie is. One mistake, I said. It's been a year of lies. She's confused, Carol continued, ignoring me. Tyler manipulated her. You've always been so stable, it's intimidating. She needed excitement. That word again. Excitement. Like loyalty was a dull color and she'd been craving neon. Carol, I said evenly, your daughter made a series of choices. Excitement didn't climb into her car. She invited it. There was a pause. Then her voice dropped to a hiss. If you expose this, you'll ruin her career. Think of her reputation. I actually laughed. I'm thinking of my sanity. When I hung up, my mom muttered, the apple doesn't fall far from the manipulation tree. That night, Sophie showed up again, uninvited. Standing in the doorway, eyes red, holding a bag of groceries like that erased everything. I made dinner, she said softly. Just, let me cook. We can talk. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She moved around the kitchen like nothing had happened, asking if I still liked rosemary potatoes. My chest felt like glass. Halfway through dinner, she dropped her fork and whispered, Please, Ethan, I told my mom we're working things out. I just need time. Time for what? I asked. To fix this. I looked her straight in the eye. You're not trying to fix this. You're trying to rewrite it. Her face twisted, and just like that, the anger came roaring back. You think you're perfect? You think you've never hurt me? I stayed quiet. That always made her spiral. You can't just erase me, Ethan, she shouted. I was your wife. I took a slow breath. You still are. That's the tragic part. She stood there shaking, then finally whispered, You'll regret this. Maybe, I said. But at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. She left the house that night for good. When I locked the door behind her, the silence didn't hurt this time. It sounded like freedom trying to breathe through the cracks. After Sophie left, I didn't rage. I didn't drink. I didn't even cry. I just organized. That's what my dad always said. When life burns down, make a list before you grab the hose. So I made one. Freeze joint account. Change locks. Talk to a lawyer. Send Tyler a message he'll never forget. I wasn't planning violence. I planned sunlight. My friend Connor, who works in tech, helped me find Tyler's public profiles. Within an hour, we uncovered a trail of Uber complaints, burner Venmo accounts, and one very revealing dating profile that included the words, discreet relationships only. That was all I needed. I printed everything, photos, texts, screenshots, and put it in a plain manila envelope labeled for his next passenger. I didn't even have to send it. I just left it at the local rideshare hub with his full name on the front. By the end of the week, Tyler's account was under review. Meanwhile, I met with a divorce lawyer named Jenna Wu. She was small, sharp, and terrifyingly efficient. Document everything, she said. Don't get emotional, get proof. I slid the receipts folder across her desk. She flipped through it quietly, her expression unreadable until she got to the text about the Marriott. Mr. Hale, she said finally, I've seen a lot of betrayal, but this? She left fingerprints everywhere. You'll walk away clean. Walking away sounded too easy. My heart was still tangled in 10 years of memories, the first apartment, our honeymoon playlist, her handwriting on post-its that said things like, you make me feel safe. Safe. That word used to make me proud. Now it felt like an insult carved into my ribs. Jenna tapped her pen. You have two options, burn her down publicly or build yourself back privately. One will feed your anger, the other will feed your peace. I asked her which one she'd choose. She smiled faintly. The second. It hurts longer but lasts better. That night I started cleaning the house, not out of grief but out of ritual. Every drawer I emptied felt like reclaiming oxygen. In Sophie's closet I found another shock, a box labeled Memories. Inside were photos of her and me, yes, but under them a stack of envelopes tied with ribbon. Each one contained a letter to Tyler. Some opened, some sealed. The first one began, You make me feel alive in a way Ethan never could. I read exactly 2 sentences before I stopped. Then I did the smartest thing I'd done all year. I didn't destroy them. I sealed the box back up, labeled it Evidence, Private, and handed it to Jenna the next day. You sure you want to keep this? She asked. Yes, I said. Because one day I want to remember how lies look on paper. That was the start of my quiet revenge. Not yelling. Not exposing her online. Just reclaiming the story, piece by piece, truth by truth. And for the first time in months I slept through the night. The next week, Sophie's family went into full-blown damage control. Her mother, Carol, called crying one day and defensive the next. "You're humiliating her," she said. "You're ruining her life." "She did that on her own," I replied calmly. "You don't understand women," she snapped. "We get lost sometimes." I wanted to laugh. "She didn't get lost," I said. "She took a map and drove straight into it." Then came her dad, Rick, a man who'd barely spoken to me in years, suddenly showing up at my door, face red, jaw tight. "You made my daughter cry," he growled. "She cheated on me, Rick." He glared like I'd confessed instead of accused. "She's my little girl. And she's my ex-wife in the making." He muttered something about ungrateful husbands, and stomped off, leaving the smell of beer and regret behind. By Friday, Sophie texted me out of nowhere. "I'm outside. Please talk to me." I should have ignored it. Instead, I opened the door. She stood there in the rain, soaked through, holding the same beige trench coat she'd worn the night she'd lied about that client dinner. Her hair stuck to her face. "I miss you," she whispered. "Please, Ethan, I can't eat, I can't sleep." "You slept fine at the Marriott," I said quietly. She flinched, then dropped to her knees again, palms up, mascara washing down her cheeks. "I made a mistake. You were everything and I ruined it. I'll go to therapy, I'll delete every account, I'll—" "Stop," I said. "You've said this all before. You don't want forgiveness. You want permission." Her eyes snapped open. "You're cold," she said, voice trembling. "You think being calm makes you better, but it makes you empty. You're not even angry." "Oh, I'm angry," I said softly. "I just stopped renting you space in my reactions." She looked around the house then, our house, the one she'd filled with candles and laughter and lies, and whispered, "It doesn't even feel like me anymore." "That's because it isn't," I said. "It never was." For a long time she just sat there on the floor, crying. Then she looked up and asked the strangest thing, "Is he going to jail?" "Tyler?" I asked. She nodded. I sighed. "I don't know. But he's definitely not driving anyone anymore." A faint, broken smile flickered across her lips. "Guess we both lost our rides." I wanted to feel pity, but all I felt was distance, the kind you can't fix with time. When she finally stood up, she whispered, "You really won't take me back, will you?" "No," I said gently. "But I'll wish you peace." She cried again, quietly this time, then left without slamming the door. That night, I walked through the house, room by room, turning off lights she used to leave on. In the mirror, I didn't see a husband anymore. I saw someone rebuilding. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like air returning to lungs that forgot how to breathe. After Sophie's last visit, everything slowed down. The chaos she brought with her had finally drained out of the house. The silence wasn't sharp anymore. It was a steady hum, almost comforting. Then came the call from Jenna, my lawyer. "You'll want to sit down for this," she said. "Tyler's been officially banned from every major rideshare platform. There's an ongoing investigation into complaints from other passengers too." I didn't even smile. I just said, "Good," and crossed another ghost off my list. But karma wasn't done doing its job. A week later, Sophie's HR department reached out to confirm dates for her business expenses. She'd apparently listed her rides with Tyler as work travel. Jenna sent them a clean summary of the investigation. By the end of that week, Sophie was on indefinite leave. Carol called me, voice shaking. "She's devastated. You ruined her job." "I didn't ruin anything," I said evenly. "I just stopped protecting her from the truth." There was a long silence on the line, then Carol said something I'll never forget. She said, "You were safe, Ethan. That was your problem. You were too safe." For the first time in months, I laughed. "That's not an insult, Carol. That's the reason I'm still standing." That weekend, I started doing something new. Climbing. It was my sister Megan's idea. "You need something that scares you just enough," she said. "Adrenaline without heartbreak." The first time I stepped into the climbing gym, I was terrified. My arms shook, my heart pounded. But the instructor, a guy named Theo, told me something that stuck. "It's not about being fearless, man. It's about trusting your grip when everything's slipping." That line hit harder than I expected. Every night, I came home sore but quiet. The receipts folder sat in my drawer, untouched. Sophie's last text, "Can we at least stay friends?" stayed unread. I didn't need closure anymore. I'd already outgrown it. Then one morning, I found a small package on my porch. No return address, just my name in her handwriting. Inside was a photo from our honeymoon, me laughing, her kissing my cheek, both of us sunburnt and stupidly happy. On the back she'd written, "You were always good. I hope I learn how to be." I didn't cry. I just slid it into the folder with the rest, not as evidence but as a reminder. Not all revenge is loud. Sometimes it's the quiet of knowing you didn't have to destroy someone to finally get free of them. And as I climbed that night, hands burning, muscles shaking, I realized revenge wasn't about winning. It was about rising. It's strange how healing starts, not as fireworks but as habits. Mornings stopped feeling heavy. I started waking up early again, taking Moose, my golden retriever, newly upgraded to roommate, on long walks before sunrise. The house didn't echo anymore, it breathed. I repainted the bedroom, the one Sophie used to fill with candles and chaos. No beige, no soft romance tones. I chose a deep blue, the color of quiet water. For the first time in years the room felt honest. My parents came by one Sunday. Mom brought soup as always and Dad fixed the loose porch light. They didn't ask about Sophie. They didn't have to. Dad just said, "Sturdy," after testing the light switch, which in our family is code for "you're getting there." A month later I took a trip. No destination, no plans. Just a solo road drive up the Oregon coast, windows down, wind cutting through the silence I'd earned. Somewhere near Cannon Beach I pulled over, climbed a dune, and watched the tide crash against rocks that didn't care about human heartbreak. That's when it hit me, peace doesn't come with justice, it comes with distance. I came home different. I canceled the couples therapy sessions and started writing again, something I hadn't done since college. I wrote about what it felt like to be betrayed but also what it felt like to survive it. My sister read one of my posts and said, "You sound like one of those Reddit guys who go viral for being too self-aware." Maybe she's right. Sophie sent one last email months later. Subject line, "Closure?" It wasn't an apology, it was a test. She said she was finding herself, that she missed what we were. I stared at it for a long time before replying. We were a story. And I'm not living in that chapter anymore. Then I archived the thread. No anger. No satisfaction. Just clean silence. I started seeing someone new months later. Her name's Rachel. Funny, grounded, doesn't post her whole life online. We met at the climbing gym. She belayed me on a route called Second Wind. Fitting, right? One night, over coffee, I told her everything. She didn't flinch or pity me. She just said, "You kept your grace." Most people lose that first. That's when I realized what all of this meant. Being safe isn't boring. It's strength that doesn't need noise. So here's what I'd tell anyone reading this who's been where I was. If you feel the distance, don't fill it with excuses. Fill it with truth that if someone lies to you, don't chase their reasons. Chase your peace. And if you ever get called too safe, smile. That's what they say right before they lose the person who would have never hurt them. I'm still climbing. Still rebuilding. Still breathing deeper every day. The funny thing about betrayal? It doesn't end you. It just edits your life into something cleaner, quieter, and more real. And when you finally step out of the ashes, you realize the quiet isn't empty. It's home. I have many other stories. Go to my channel, subscribe so you don't lose us. Give me a thumbs up.